We're going to work with the image-based light property in this lesson. Image-based light is a lot like ambient in that it provides a color for a scene. But in this case, though, it's not just a color cast, it's actually illuminating a scene with a color. It could be a neutral gray, but you can also apply a color to it, or an image. You can actually illuminate a scene with a photo or a graphic. So to see how this works, let's go to Working Files, and go to Photoshop Projects, and we're going to work with the opacity project again because it applies in this particular case. The first thing I want to do is I want to turn off the infinite light because I want to see exactly how the image-based light works, because the infinite light will kind of override some of the IBL's characteristics. So I'll turn that off. I'll go up to the environment here. Now we're seeing the IBL, the image-based light section here inside the environment properties panel. You see that the scene is kind of a dark gray. It's being illuminated by the image-based light. And at the moment, the image-based light is not really an image, it's just a color. If you go over here to the color swatch, you see it's a dark gray. Now this is not the color swatch here, this is. This looks like a color swatch, but if you click here, it just says, do you want to open up a new texture or load up a texture? We're going to work on that in the next lesson, so we're going to focus here only on the color swatch characteristics in this lesson. So I click on this color swatch, and you're going to see it's not black. It's a dark, dark gray. It's about 90% black, 10% white, something like that. So there you go, you've got this gray, and it's set to 100% intensity. If I change the intensity to 0, everything turns black. You can't see a thing. Start raising it up, it'll start kind of blowing out the scene to about 1000% there. It's pretty much illuminated brightly. Now this will change depending on the intensity of the color we select in the color swatch. So I go back here to the color swatch. I can change the intensity this way as well, as you can see. Also change the colors. Let's go over here and change it to a different color. Let's say blue, for example. And it illuminates the scene evenly everywhere. Click OK. It's not just throwing the light from our direction, from the way we're looking at it. If I go get the selection tool, click over here, I can rotate around here. You'll see that it's everywhere. It's behind the ball, below the scene, above the scene, and back of it. It just gives everything an even color cast, as if this were a 2D object that you applied a color to. So that's how that works, like that. Now this interacts with any lights you add to the scene, and the infinite light is added to scenes by default except for postcards. So click on that, and you can see now how it interacts. The light kind of blows out the image-based light back there because this infinite light is too bright back there. But down here on the floor, you see that image-based light has some effect, but not a full effect. And then in the shadow there, it has more of an effect. And then you get the whole sort of purple thing around the edge here with the bright white light of the infinite light shining there. So you do have this interaction between any lights you add to the scene and the image-based light. You also have interaction with ambient. I'll turn off the infinite light there and change the ambient for this guy. Click on the sphere once, twice. Go to its ambient, change it from black to something else. Since we have purple in the background here, I'll go to, let's say, yellow. Nothing will happen yet because the global ambient is still black. Go back to environment, change the global ambient to something besides black. I'll just raise this a bit, make it brighter. Then we'll start seeing the effect of our color over here. Notice how it's interacting with the scene. It's getting its own color that way. So the ambient color reacts to the image-based light color like that. If I go down to the sphere material again now and change that ambient color, you'll see how it reacts to the scene like so. So it's responding to the image-based light as well. So they kind of work together. They also work with any lights you add to the scene like so. Let's go back to the image-based light. A couple other characteristics of the image-based light are shadows and a shadow softness. Now if a light is universal, if it applies evenly to everything, how could there be any shadows? But it really does apply some shadows. Very subtle shading is probably the more proper term here. It looks at the contours of a 3D object and provides some shading to those contours to make it look more realistic. And the shadow is on by default. It's good that it's on by default because it just enhances the 3D feel of an object. Let's get things sort of set back to normal here. I'll go back in history, go back to the open here, and we'll go back to 3D. Now I want to turn off the infinite light here just so you can see how the shading works with the image-based light only. Go there. Let's increase the intensity, go back to environment, and let's have that be a little bit brighter. And right now you don't see any kind of shadows because you need to render it. I'm going to increase the softness here so we can have that working too. Let me just select an area with the selection tool, go over here like that. I'm going to render this area here. I'm going to let it go for a while, so I'll fast forward here. All right, it's only 4% completed, 96% left to go, but I think this is good enough for our purposes here. Let me do Control Command D to deselect the area, and I think you can see there's an obvious difference here. There's more shading down here, less up here, a little bit of shading on the floor as well. Let's turn on the light now. I'm going to turn off the shadow, which is not something that you would normally do, but I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to render this now. Just click Render here. You'll notice that it renders very quickly and not much happens because there's no shadow from the IBL to render here. The shadow from the IBL does take some rendering time. Now you see how it looks. Let me just select that area again, more or less like so. And let's render it with the light turned on and with shadow turned on and see what the difference is. Here we go. I'll let it get back down to 97% again, which is basically 3% along the way, 97% left to go. Now you can see that subtle shading we had there because of the shadow turned on back here in environment. We'll go back in history just to show you the difference here. Go back to there. No. Here. Yes. And that difference, I think, is important. I think it's good to have the shadow turned on, which is on by default. If you turn it off, you can do much faster renders, but it won't look quite as realistic with that shadow turned off. So that's how you work with the image-based light when you're just working with a color swatch. I'll show you how to work with an image file in the next lesson.